Hey everyone, and welcome. Have you ever wondered how we can actually tell if a company is making the world a better place, or maybe a worse one? Well, it all comes down to transparency. Today, we're going to break down the four core concepts from the GRI Standards. Think of them as the engine that powers real corporate accountability. Let's get right into it.
So here's our roadmap. We'll start by looking beyond just the financial numbers. Then we'll dive into the four cornerstones of GRI reporting. We'll explore what impacts are and who they affect, get into the nitty-gritty of due diligence, and figure out how companies decide what's important enough to report. And finally, we'll tie it all together.
All right, first up, beyond the bottom line. Now, to really understand GRI, you have to start with a pretty big shift in how you think. We're going to move our focus from what's happening inside a company's walls to its effect on the world outside.
We're so used to asking, how is the company doing financially? But GRI makes us ask a much bigger question. How does a company truly affect the world around it? The economy, the environment, and well, all of us. And this slide just nails the difference, right? Traditional financial reporting is totally inward-looking. It's all about the financial health of the company itself. But GRI-style sustainability reporting, it flips the camera around. It's an outward look, focused completely on the company's real-world effects. So, how in the world do you measure that outward effect in a consistent way? Well, that's where GRI's four foundational cornerstones come into play. These are literally the building blocks for creating a transparent and meaningful report. At the absolute heart of the GRI standards are these four key concepts. You can think of them as the what, the who, the how, and the so what of sustainability reporting. We've got impact, stakeholder, due diligence, and material topics. Let's break each one down.
First things first, let's tackle the what and the who. What exactly are these effects we're talking about, and who is actually being affected? This is all about impacts and their stakeholders.
So the GRI standards are super clear about what an impact is. It's the effect an organization has or even could have on the world. A key thing to notice here is that it's not just about what's happening right now, it's also about potential future effects. And it's not just a company's direct actions, but the impacts created through its entire web of business relationships too.
And this is where it gets really nuanced. An impact isn't just one simple thing. For instance, think about a company building a new factory. That creates jobs, right? That's a positive intended impact. But it might also create pollution, a negative, maybe unintended impact that could cause long-term, irreversible harm. GRI says companies have to think about all these different angles.
Okay, so who feels all these impacts? That's where stakeholders enter the picture. A stakeholder is basically any person or group whose interests are affected, or could be, by what a company does. And let me tell you, their perspective is absolutely crucial for figuring out what the real impacts even are.
And as you can see, stakeholders are a really broad group. It's not just about the investors and customers. We're talking about employees, the people in the communities living near a plant, the suppliers all the way down the chain, and even governments. It's a true 360-degree view of everyone who has a stake in the game.
Okay, so we've got the what and the who down. But how does a company actually manage all of this responsibly? Well, that brings us to our third concept, due diligence.
Due diligence isn't some dusty report you file once a year. It's an ongoing process. It's the active system a company puts in place to find, prevent, and lessen its negative impacts, and then report on how they're handling them. This is what responsible business conduct looks like in action.
And that process has some pretty clear steps. First, you've got to identify your negative impacts. Then you have to actually do something to prevent or reduce them. You also have to track what you're doing and be open about it. And finally, and this is so important, if you caused harm, you have a responsibility to help fix it. That's what remediation is all about.
Look, any organization can have tons of different impacts. It's impossible to report on everything with the same level of detail. So how do they focus? This brings us to our final and super critical concept, figuring out what is material. This is really the so what of the whole thing.
Simply put, material topics are the issues that represent a company's most significant impacts. After a company has done its due diligence and identified all these possible impacts, it has to prioritize. These material topics are the issues that matter most, the ones that absolutely demand transparency.
In this quote, this gets right to the very soul of what GRI is about. It basically says a company can't just ignore a massive negative impact, like, say, polluting a river, just because it isn't hurting their profits today. The principle is crystal clear. Your impact on the world is what matters. Full stop.
So figuring out what's material is a step-by-step process. It all starts with really understanding your business and where it fits in the world. From there, you identify your impacts, you figure out how significant they are, and finally, you prioritize the most critical ones for your report. This process forms the very backbone of a good sustainability report.
Okay, now for the grand finale. Let's put all the pieces together. These 4 concepts aren't just separate ideas. They are all part of one interconnected, dynamic system.
It all kicks off with that ongoing active process of due diligence. And that's how an organization systematically finds its real and potential impacts.
And those impacts are understood based on how they affect stakeholders. That understanding is what allows the organization to sort through everything and prioritize them into the final list of material topics, which becomes the core of a credible, transparent sustainability report. You see that? It's a perfect, logical flow from process all the way to outcome.
And that's a wrap. These 4 concepts, they're not just jargon for reports. They're a truly powerful framework for accountability. They shift the focus from just a company's financial health to the health of our planet and its people. Which leaves us with one last big thought. Just imagine, what would our world look like if every single organization was truly transparent about its outward impact? Something to think about.